All right, so Holly Hoffman. There you go. Watch your nose. Okay.
All right.
So please spell your name.
The Hoffman part or the Holly part?
You can both start with the main thing.
It's Holly, Holly, and Hoffman with 2 F's and 2 N's.
Good.
And I've been a resident of the desert now for about 17 years.
Right.
Originally transplanted from Santa Cruz, California, which is where I raised my family. And the reason I ended up in the desert was because I just got tired of being cold. So I came down here to be warm, and I fell in love. Fell in love with the desert, and gradually started integrating myself more and more into the community. And I opened up the yoga center here in 2008. And I think its humble beginnings were, we had a shell here and a landlord that wasn't particularly interested in renting to 2 yoga teachers. But we convinced him to do so, and we've been here for 17 years. So,
wow.
Yeah, and what we offer to the community is yoga classes, and we have for a very long time a full schedule of yoga. And just within the last 4 years, I would say post-COVID, we opened as a branch or an arm of the yoga center, a nonprofit, which does outreach into the community in the senior center. So we travel to the senior center and give some yoga classes, and we also host classes here on Saturdays and Tuesday evenings for those in the community that don't really have the funds to take up a yoga practice. So we like to support the community with that offering. And we really have some well-trained teachers. You can see we've got all kinds of certificates and platforms around, and so we know what we're doing, from Iyengar yoga therapy all the way up to assisting people going through transitions in life, be they joint replacement or cancer survivors or melancholia, as they used to call it. I like that name better than the one we're currently using.
What are we using now?
Depression.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think melancholia sounds a little bit less
institutional.
Maybe that's institutional or just insurmountable sometimes.
Yeah,
I think once you go down that road, I think you kind of start to go down that road, and maybe it's a little bit hard to let go of. But anyways, whatever, we help people with all kinds of different things here, and we do it for free on those particular days. So anyways, we're just looking to increase our community outreach through our nonprofit and through the donations that come in through that nonprofit. So it just helps us spread the message a little bit more.
How does yoga help people? Let's say they have some physical issues, that knee or shoulder or something, or even melancholia. How does it actually work like that?
Well, a yoga practice is meant to allow the alignment of the body, to create the systems, or to allow the systems of the body, the waste matter and blood flow and whatnot, to function properly, where there's no impingements or adhesions, so that the energy can flow, right? So we want to create some space between the joints so that they stay healthy and that we're able to age gracefully. Movement is a big thing as you age, and strength is also a big thing. A big obstacle for people as they age. The more that we sit, the less strength that we gain. And so that's part of what we do when we go out to the senior centers, is teach that you don't have to just sit in the chair all day. Even if you stand up, sit down, you're gaining strength, you're gaining agility, and balance also is a form of walking, right? In order to be able to walk, you have to be able to balance on one foot. So, when the stride gets shorter and we hear the slide, 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 we know we're going in the wrong direction. So through a yoga practice, you gain strength, you gain a balance to your actual physical skeleton, which then holds the muscles, the ligaments, and the tendons, and they're able to work in the way that they're meant to. So, maybe we're warding off a knee replacement or a hip replacement, or maybe gathering the strength that you need. A practice prior helps post. I have many students that are post-surgical from knees or hips that just do beautifully in practice after a very short time. And in most cases, their doctor or their PT goes, "Wow, what are you doing?" And they say, "Iyengar yoga." I'm like, "Oh, okay." And because it works, and we're well trained, years and years of training instead of hours and hours of training, and we continue that path through our whole teaching career. It's about learning, applying, and learning some more. So that's kind of yoga and how it works on the physical body. And when the physical body's aligned and we're out of let's call it pain mode or frustration mode, then the spirituality can start to come in, because you've settled to a place that you can then take on that aspect. I always find it interesting that people say, "Oh, I meditate every day." Well, okay. Maybe you take some time and sit and be quiet, but then I can watch that same student, come in and be frustrated in just sitting still. So learning how to sit still with the physical body then allows your mental body to blossom and that spirituality to come. If that makes any sense to you.
Could you describe how Iyengar yoga is maybe different than other yoga?
Well, it is a system of Hatha yoga. We say that it's a little bit more studied system of Hatha yoga. So we're not, unless it's a specific class, we're not necessarily moving in a flow way from one pose to the next. We set it up. If you need props, you use them. The system of props from a block to a belt was all developed by BKS Iyengar. So anybody in a yoga class that's using a block, a belt, a bolster, or any of those items is most likely coming from, the teaching of how to is coming from Iyengar yoga. So in using those props, you can set up your asana so that it does have the correct alignment. So it gets back to, again, setting up the structure of the physical body so that the interior body can flow. The energy, the waste matter, blood, so it flows in a way that's not encumbered.
All right. Do you have a student in particular that that's had remarkable success doing yoga?
So I have so many that have been with me for a very long time, that have gone through different stages of life. And I have a particular student that came to me, long time worker bee, and with a shoulder impingement and low back issue. And after practicing for, I don't know, maybe it was 3 or 4 months, something like that, another student came in that said, "Oh, I have a shoulder issue, would you be able to help me with that?" And I said, "Sure, I would." And I looked over at this other student and I said, "She used to have a shoulder issue." And she looked at me and she said, What shoulder issue?" She, it had gone to the point of healing that she even forgot that, it was something that she used to deal with. So you have stories like that. I have students that come back to me after, having a knee replacement, and they're back in the studio in 3 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks. Yeah, they're not at their full potential, but because of the props that we have, because of the methods of helping people that we know, we can help them and they get back onto their regular life in a very speedy way.
Mm-hmm.
So
some of the pictures I've seen, some of the videos of the old style, it looks like you have to be pretty accelerated in your yoga practice to do those. Is that true?
No, it's not true. I know everybody says, "Oh, I can't do yoga, I can't even touch my toes." But you have to start somewhere. And again, going back to the very beginning, if not touching your toes is an issue, or touching your toes is something you want to do, we have methods to get you there. We have, we're studied, we know the words to use to help you grow and get there. And, a lot of times not being able to touch your toes means that your hamstrings are a little tight, and maybe they're pulling your lower body into a misalignment that's giving you a back issue. If you're bow-legged and you're toed out, maybe that's something that's causing stress to your knees. Maybe if your hips are really tight, that's something that's not allowing you to lift your torso up. If your shoulders are stiff and rolled forward, the head follows. And then we end up, as I tell my students often, nobody ever looks at that lady on the corner that's got a rounded back and a forward head and says, I want to look like that. Most of us are trying to not look like that so that we can spread the chest. And it's not really about how you look outwardly, it's what's happening to your heart when you're collapsing onto it. When you scrunch so much the front of the chest, your heart's, does it have the room that it needs? Does it have the circulation that it should have in order to stay healthy, in order to pump blood? So it's not just, stiff outer body could be a stiff inner body. So we want them to both be the same so that people, my big thing is I like people to be able to walk through old age with some amount of grace and be able to move in the world with ease. Dis-ease is not a happy place to be. It's much easier to fight it off. What did Clint Eastwood used to say? Don't let the old guy in. So we're fighting here to not let the old guy or the old gal in as best we can. It's coming for us all, but we have to do the work. And I think that as you age, you have to actually do more instead of less. So,
how old would you be if you were just too old for yoga?
I would say if you let yourself get to the point where it's very difficult to stand up from a chair, that you would have to start there with gathering some strength and have enough mobility to be part of a class. If you were looking for a one-on-one, situation where, you've let things go, or you've had a particular injury or surgery that maybe doesn't allow for you to be in a classroom situation, yoga therapy is a very viable option. I know that through my cancer, I'm a long-term cancer survivor. I would say, what's the number now? I don't even know, 30 some odd years. My yoga has really carried me through that.
Spirit, in what way could you?
Well, just physically, to be able to stay strong and to not have edema come, or shoulder issues or cross-body constriction. But also through my process of learning how to care, I can teach other people, right? And that's what yoga therapy is. I think, if you've got a cancer survivor teaching cancer survivors, there's a little bit more ease and camaraderie in that.
Holly, why don't that many men come? Or why is it more women, I should say?
That's a tough one to answer. We should probably ask a guy. But I think it's because men inherently are more competitive than women. Okay. And they don't like to be in a situation where maybe they feel like they can't do and they get embarrassed. But having said that, we have plenty of men in class.
Yeah.
So, I think that, using the ropes that we have here or using the props, the goal is not to touch your toes. Again, the goal is to, age gracefully and with all of your faculties as best you can.
Do you think yoga helps you with your faculties?
I do.
In what way?
I think that you being able, first of all, yoga is a somatic experience, right? You do something and you feel it. So we get a little bit more in touch with what we feel, what's happening. You can talk to people and they'll say, oh, I didn't realize I was standing crooked. Well, but as soon as you point it out, they go, oh, yes, maybe I am standing crooked. Maybe I could adjust that. And so then they, there's a little bit of self-healing and self-study. In yoga, we call it svadhyaya, happening so that they can, again, bring that alignment, bring that lift to the spine, bring the openness to their chest, and continue on with their practice.
So it's not just a physical thing.
Yeah. And yoga also gives us the few moments, I call it the few moments in the in-between, between cause and effect, right? There's something that made you want to react. And I think using your practice or using the quietness that yoga gives you helps you draw back a little bit from reacting too quickly and doing something maybe that you didn't think you should have done afterwards. You just have those few moments to take a breath. There's a reason people say take a deep breath, right? It calms you down. You take a deep breath, you let it go, and then maybe you'll react in a way that you're not regretful. So I think if every road rager could put a button that said, take a deep breath and relax, there, somebody could let it go.
How long is the class usually?
We have classes that go from an hour and 15 minutes to an hour and 45 minutes. And then if it's a more advanced class, we go 2 hours. Some of the restorative classes are only an hour. So we kind of run the whole range.
Are you doing some of these classes online now?
Yes, we do. We have a hybrid situation going on. So we have some classes that are only in person, and then the majority of classes are actually, part of the studentship is on Zoom, because we have a transient population here in the desert, meaning, people are here, snowbird type people, and then they go back home in the summer when it's 100 in a million. And they take classes online from their home. So most of my students have, props set up, or even some of them have rope walls at home that they're able to practice from and continue on their path.
How long has this yoga studio been here?
So this January was 15 years. And yeah, so we've been here for a while. Again, when we first moved in, our landlord wanted retail space here and wanted retail all the way down.
Right.
So he rented to 2 people that had a retail business, and then we started the yoga center here. And after 6 months time, both of them went by the wayside, and we've been here ever since. So we took a gamble on us, and it worked. But
what kind of businesses are around here that you're in the middle of? What do you got? Shoe repair?
There's a lot of shoe repairs here in President's Plaza. It seems shoe repair is a rather big market. And next door we have Maria's Alterations, and she's been there for maybe 3 or 4 years now, maybe longer. Time flies. And then the bike store. The bike store here has been for a long time. It just changed owners, and they've added a few, more of a restaurant flavor to the bike shop. So that's been nice, and seeing more people come by and realize that we're here.
Because a little bit,
We're
it's
a
kind
little
of behind 111.
Yeah.
What about the wig shop? Okay, they got a wig shop.
I have no idea. I have no idea. I've never been in there. The optometrist or ophthalmologist. Can't remember if he's an optometrist or an ophthalmologist, but very nice man.
Some
Been here for
male
a very long
places?
time. Yeah. So
Yeah,
this side, we used to have a bagel shop, and then we had
New York Bagel, right?
yeah, and then we had who was on the end was
The Elephant Park.
Elephant Bar, yeah, and then the Elephant Bar changed into Babalu. Then Tower Market came. So there's been a little bit of movement here, but we've been here the whole time.
The anchor store.
The anchor store is the yoga center. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah.
What kind of people come to yoga? I mean, is it usually what's the demographic of somebody?
That is where it would be impossible for me to pin down, because I have people in here from, 20 years old to 80 years old, and everything in between, and male or female, the same thing.
And you have different ethnic groups that come here too.
We do. We teach classes in Spanish or bilingual. So we really have a full service menu.
What about your charity outreach? You're working with, you mentioned Variety or something like that.
Variety Children's Charity of the Desert. So I received an award for my community outreach through them, which was a really fun night. There was a gala, and we got a nice award. But I really don't feel like it was just me. It was more my community of teachers and the community here. It takes a small village to have a nonprofit. It takes people that want to volunteer their time to even let people know that you're out there and you offer, and to get everything set up, with bylaws and boards and treasurers. It takes a small village. So I don't really, even though the ward has my name on it, I feel like it should really have everyone's name on it, because it wasn't just about me. But it was nice to be recognized, for sure.